Hey everyone, it's November 23rd, 2021. So it's 2 days before Thanksgiving, and I've prepped the full puff pastry, I've prepped the pie dough, and right now, 2 days before, I'm going to prep the mashed potatoes and mashed cauliflower. Really excited. So yeah, let's get to it. I like to prep some things a couple days before Thanksgiving because it makes my life easier. And yeah, I'm excited to show you. They're really easy recipes, so let's get into it. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Martinez, and today I'm going to show you how to make a vegan holiday dinner. To make some mashed potatoes, all you need is a couple pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes, russet potatoes, red potatoes. You can make it out of everything. To make them vegan, you just need to use vegan butter and some regular spices. Start by dicing up your Yukon Gold potatoes in this case, and mince a couple garlic cloves. I minced about 5 or 6 garlic cloves in this case because I used half of them for mashed potatoes and half of them for mashed cauliflower. Mashed cauliflower is another way to supplement but also add some extra vegetables to your side dishes for any holiday meal. Add your potatoes to boiling water with a little bit of salt and boil them until they are completely soft and the skin falls off and you can easily prick a fork into that potato. It should be extremely tender. Rinse the potatoes and then add them back into your pot and mash them with a potato masher. You can also do this by using a handheld blender. Add some vegan butter, approximately 2 tablespoons worth of vegan butter, and the garlic that you've hopefully sauteed in a little bit of the vegan butter, or you can add it in totally raw. The vegan butter adds a little bit of extra delicious and comforting taste. Add a teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of white pepper or regular black ground pepper, and a 1/4 cup of oat milk or any plant milk. You can also use vegan sour cream, vegan cream cheese, or more butter if you prefer a more decadent mashed potato. Let's get to the mashed cauliflower. Take 1 head of cauliflower, remove the plastic wrap, and take a knife and start to cut it into florets. You'll want to remove the core by cutting out a square and then gently pulling apart the florets from the core, or you can just, it's going to be mashed up anyway, so cut it into whatever particular shape you want. Once again, drain the cauliflower in a sink. Be careful not to burn yourself. And add a tablespoon of vegan butter. Saute that garlic that we minced at the beginning of the video. Approximately 2 garlic cloves per serving, 1 for the mashed potato, 1 for the mashed cauliflower. Give it a good mix, and also make sure not to burn your garlic because garlic can easily burn. Add a half teaspoon of salt and pepper each, or to taste if you'd like some more. I found that the cauliflower needed a little bit more salt than the mashed potatoes. And take a handheld blender and blend it up. I chose to do a vegan Wellington. To make the filling, you're going to do and cook, according to the instructions, 1 pound of green lentils. Any firm lentil works here, not red lentils. I cooked it in some veggie broth to add some extra flavor and set it aside. In a food processor or by hand, add 2 carrots, 2 to 3 carrots, a yellow onion, and blitz it until you have fine ground pieces, almost like a mince, but don't make sure to puree it, that's too far. It should look somewhere between little cubes and also like minced garlic. Add a little bit of vegetable broth to a large skillet and toss in your carrots and onion mixture. Add 1.5 celery sticks or 2, depending on how much you have and how much you want the taste of celery to appear, in addition to 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, some dried thyme, paprika, sage, I'll leave all of the measurements in the description, and some vegan Worcestershire sauce, which is really delicious. I love this condiment. I think it's very underappreciated. Add a half teaspoon of black pepper, and for some extra saltiness, a tablespoon of soy sauce or less, depending on your taste. But since we'll be adding a ton of lentils, a tablespoon is just enough. Add your Himalayas of lentils. This will be a lot, but trust me, it'll be worth it if you're serving a big crowd. You want to have some leftovers, right? It is a holiday. Mix those up until nice. You want to make sure that everything is well cooked, and add 1.5 cups of chopped, fresh or frozen kale, in addition to half a cup of sunflower seeds. This is optional, but that extra crunch in the middle is a nice textural variance. Use your potato masher to gently mash up the lentils to have a more starchy texture. You want it to combine just a little bit to release those proteins, and then add a half a cup of breadcrumbs or panko breadcrumbs, whatever you prefer, to really bind that together. Now, adjust any seasonings at this point. What you'll want to do is then let your mixture cool completely. In the refrigerator, ideally, you can let it overnight or at least an hour. You don't want to put it in piping hot to a puff pastry, because the Wellington, of course, needs that puff pastry, and it makes the shaping of the mixture much easier. So in a bowl or in a floured surface, whatever you prefer, you're going to dump out your mixture, your lentil mixture, and add a little bit of flour just to coat it to have everything stick together, and use your hands to form it into a log, almost like a Yule log. The favorite dessert of the holiday is one of the favorites. We're going to then roll out our puff pastry. I used this from the previous video. This is a full vegan puff pastry. You can use rough puff, you can use store-bought, whatever makes your life easier around the holidays. Don't overstress it, but if you're ambitious like I am, go for the full puff pastry made in your own house. Take a rolling pin and roll it out to the thinness or thickness of your heart's desire, but most importantly, you want it to be long enough, wide enough that it will cover your entire mixture. Place your filling into the middle, and then slowly take the opposite sides, the left, the right, and bring it towards the center to completely enclose your Wellington. You can also add a little bit of milk to make the pastry more adhesive to itself. Now, I struggled a little bit here, so do as I say, not as I do in the video. But if you're gonna have a little bit of trouble, say you're like me and you didn't roll it out completely as thin enough or as big enough, take a little bit of that extraneous puff pastry at the ends, because you're going to cut it off anyway, and do a little patchwork. No big deal, not a problem whatsoever. You just need it to be closed. So take some of that extra puff pastry, cut it into little strips, and patch up those mistakes. Once it's nice and patched up, flip it over. Now this is key, because you want to flip it onto the seam so it doesn't open in the oven during baking, because if you allow the seam to be at the top, the puff pastry will expand, the butter will create those layers, and your seam will burst, which happened to me. So do as I say, not as I do, because it was very disappointing, but honestly it didn't come out as bad as it initially looked. It was still delicious, but definitely make sure to keep it seam side down. Of course, don't forget to seal your edges. This can be by just, mending the two sides after you've removed some pastry, or you can fold the pastry upon itself, but sometimes I find that the pastry gets a little soggy when I do this, so less is more in this situation. Take your knife, score the pastry as decorative or as simple as you want. This is completely up to you. I just did some simple patches, some hatch work. And then take a combination of oil and soy milk. I like soy milk, but any plant milk works. And like you would do with an egg wash, gently brush it all over your vegan Wellington until every little segment is completely covered. This just ensures for a nice even browning, but it'll still be good if it's a little pale. So add as much oil. I feel like the more oil you add to the mixture, the browner it gets, simply because oil has that tendency, similar to an egg yolk. Egg yolk is really just fat anyway, it's cholesterol, so just use olive oil and save the little chickens. Put the puff pastry and let it chill in your refrigerator. Let it just relax, and then bake it in the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 40 to 50 minutes until nice and golden brown. Your filling is already baked. It's basically just to cook the pastry. So depending on how hot your oven is, this is completely up to you. You want to have it a nice golden brown color. You can go further if you want, but this is the color I prefer. Now, because I said it opened up a little bit at the seams, you can tell that some of the puff pastry fell, but it was still really good once you used a serrated knife and hacked into it. Now for two sides, we're going to take some carrots and Brussels sprouts and oven them up. Take 1 to 2 pounds of baby carrots, add them to a bowl, and add some seasonings. To make some maple carrots is pretty straightforward. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of olive oil, 1 to 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of salt and pepper each, and a little bit of lemon juice, totally optional for a little nuance to that maple syrup flavor, and let them chill and rest. Add them to a greased baking tray and set that aside while we work on the Brussels sprouts. For the Brussels sprouts, take however many you want. Honestly, this can be dependent on how much you would like to eat, but I took about 3 to 4 pounds worth of Brussels sprouts. You want to wash them until they're super clean, release that water and that dirt, and then trim them. You want to get rid of the edges and save those edges because they're wonderful vegetables and you can use them as vegetable stock or compost them. I made a lot of Brussels sprouts because we're a big fan here. Add them to one large bowl and prepare your sauce. The sauce for some Dijon Brussels sprouts is also pretty simple. Add 2 tablespoons of agave nectar or maple syrup if you want, a half tablespoon of soy sauce, pinch of garlic powder, tablespoon of Dijon mustard, half a tablespoon of yellow mustard, and a half teaspoon of black pepper. I love the taste of yellow mustard, so I added that in for a more mustardy flavor. Combine it with all of these ingredients with a whisk, and then drench those Brussels sprouts with a little bit of olive oil and the sauce that you just prepared. Make sure to cover all of the Brussels sprouts so they are all nice and seasoned. To a baking tray, grease it up with a little bit of spray oil or butter, whatever you want, vegan butter of course. Add your Brussels sprouts to the tray, making sure that they're evenly spread out. Add some extra seasonings if you like, try them, make sure it's up to par, and then bake both of your Brussels sprouts and maple carrots at 375 degrees Fahrenheit, covered with foil for 25 to 30 minutes, making sure to remove the foil halfway or with 10 minutes remaining at the bake time to have a nice char. The maple carrots are sweet. I like them a little burnt just because I like that flavor. The Brussels sprouts were truly my favorite thing. They were the star of the show with that mustard flavor. And then you just combine everything on a plate and enjoy your amazing full vegan holiday dinner. Let me know in the comments what you think, if you try this out or any other kind of holiday food you'd like to see, and see you next Friday. Have a good one.